Hi, it's Carlina from foodindustry.com. Today, we're going to break down a law that totally changed the game for food safety here in the US, the Food Safety Modernization Act, or as you'll often hear it, FSMA. It's a really big deal, and trust me, it affects pretty much everything you eat. So to really get why this law was so desperately needed, we have to start with one truly staggering number: 48 million. Yup, according to the CDC, that's how many people in the US get sick from foodborne illnesses every single year. And that leads to about 128,000 hospitalizations and, so tragically, 3,000 deaths. But here's the real kicker. This immense public health problem is largely preventable. You know, we're not just talking about statistics on a page. This was a massive public health crisis, and it was a real threat to the whole food system. After a string of major, high-profile outbreaks back in the early 2000s, it was crystal clear the old way of doing things just wasn't working anymore. So, what was the answer? Well, in response to that crisis, the government enacted the Food Safety Modernization Act. When it was signed into law back in 2011, it became the biggest overhaul of our food safety laws since 1938. Think about that for a second. Over 70 years. So yeah, this was a monumental change. But what was so revolutionary about it? Well, at its very heart, FSMA is all about a complete and total shift in philosophy. It fundamentally changed the government's entire game plan for food safety, moving away from just reacting to problems and toward getting ahead of them. See, for decades, the old system was basically reactive. The FDA and other agencies would respond to outbreaks after people were already sick. FSMA completely flipped that model on its head. The whole point now is to make sure our food supply is safe by preventing contamination in the first place, rather than just reacting to it. Okay, so the big idea is prevention. But how do you actually do that on such a massive scale? How do you turn that concept into real-world action? Well, the answer lies in its core framework. The law is built on these 7 foundational rules, and together they cover the entire food supply chain, from farm to table. And as you can see, these rules are incredibly thorough. We're talking about everything from produce farms and animal feed to the trucks that bring food to your store. It even makes sure that imported food has to meet the same tough standards. All right, these rules look great on paper, right? But what does this actually mean for a food business on, say, a Tuesday afternoon? How does it all translate into action? Because let me tell you, these are not just suggestions. They require specific, documented steps. For most food facilities, the absolute heart of FSMA is having a written food safety plan. This isn't optional, it's a mandate. The plan forces a business to analyze every potential hazard, create controls to prevent them, and then constantly monitor, correct, and verify that the whole system is working. And the golden rule? If it's not written down, it didn't happen. Documentation is everything. And who's in charge of all this? Well, you can't just hand this off to anyone. This is where a key person comes in, the Preventative Controls Qualified Individual, or PCQI for short. Think of them as the captain of the food safety ship. They have to go through special training recognized by the FDA, and it's their job to oversee that whole safety plan and make sure it's being followed to the letter every single day. So we've gone through the what and the how. We've seen the problem and the framework for the solution. But let's bring it all back home. Why does any of this matter to you, whether you're in the food industry or you're just buying groceries for your family? For all of us as consumers, the goal is pretty simple: confidence. It's about being able to trust that the food on the shelf is safe. By focusing on preventing problems before they start, FSMA is all about driving down that huge number of illnesses and building more trust in our food, no matter where in the world it comes from. And if you're a food professional, this is about so much more than just checking a compliance box. It's about protecting public health, of course, but it's also just smart business. A strong food safety plan protects your brand, it helps you avoid a financially devastating recall, and frankly, it's your ticket to play in the big leagues. Ultimately, what FSMA does is create a shared responsibility for food safety. It's not a static set of rules. It's a living system that has to keep evolving with new challenges and new technologies. And with our food system getting more complex every day, this preventative mindset is more critical than ever, which leaves us with a really big question to think about for the future. Remember, subscribe and like, and visit foodindustry.com for more info.